Sometimes it's easy to believe that homesteading will begin someday when we have more land, more space, or the home we've been dreaming of. But there is still so much joy to be found right where we are. Today I'm slowing down to enjoy the simple work of home, preparing nourishing meals, tending the garden, bringing fresh flowers inside, and making the most of what we already have, even when the homemade bread doesn't turn out quite as planned. Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah. I am an RN turned homemaker and homeschooler of 5 beautiful children. And today I wanted to show you a day in my life and little things that I do around the house to try and find joy on our urban homestead. Homemaking is often made up of quote unquote ordinary things we do repeatedly. Making tea for your family may not feel exciting, but these small routines help create the feeling of home, and there can be satisfaction in caring for what you already have. The dream isn't only to have more land or a bigger garden when it comes to homesteading, it is also creating a peaceful, functional home in the season you are living in right now. And our season, as you can see, is living in an urban homestead. So I am trying to find beauty and function and all those types of things within our less than a half an acre of land up here on the ridge in Northern California, surrounded by not only other residential houses, but also empty lots from the fire that happened in 2018. So for me, being able to produce things on our small little piece of land, like these beautiful sunflowers, is something that I find very joyful. And just being able to cut flowers from my backyard and bring them inside is a very simple reminder of how to enjoy what is going on right now in front of you. I don't know if I am just in a season of waiting or if this is what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future, but as I am here, I am going to continue to work on my skill set of being able to do as much things from my home as possible instead of outsourcing everything or just waiting for the land to come in, which honestly, at this point, in how expensive things are, I'm not sure is really ever going to happen for us. We are a one income family, and that is by choice. I left nursing to stay home with my family and to homeschool my children. So I am definitely not complaining about that. But I am also being pragmatic and just trying to be content with where me and my family are, even though we do have these really big, ambitious dreams of owning lots of more land and a farm and all those kinds of things down the road. So one thing that I am doing now as a homesteader is learning to be resourceful, like I have mentioned. I am making food from scratch while being mindful of the summer heat and the high energy costs out here in California, and I'm hearing in other states as well. But I'm not trying to do everything the quote unquote traditional way. I'm trying to make sense for what we have in our current state, our current times, and all of those things in mind. Basically, home economics in the current century. So with high energy costs in mind, I am using our small little oven here to make this cornbread for lunch instead of heating up the house already with the oven and then having to turn on the air conditioning, and just getting some simple frozen broccoli florets from the freezer to add alongside of this for lunch, and then also utilizing some leftovers from the last couple dinners that we had of salmon and some chicken makes a very quick and easy nutritious lunch for my family. And by doing this, we are cutting down on our waste, which is another thing that homesteaders are mindful of, is making sure that we are using what we have and just being more mindful of our consumption and waste. Something that I have shared with you guys recently is the homemade coffee creamer that you just saw me use up and the iced coffee that I have been making. And that is definitely a little bit of joy for me here. I feel like it's just as good, if not better, than any of those um, expensive coffee shops. And I know I'm probably gonna get flack for that. But anyways, having it made from home, taking the time to do this because it is not something that happens overnight. It does take 24 hours, is very fulfilling to me. Picked up some new plants. Kids. Yep, the kids immediately took off any berries, or grapes, I should say, that were growing.
That's Samuel.
Yeah, gonna be replacing some of my strawberry plants, so I just picked up some new ones. They were having a sale. And then my lavender had died when we went on our road trip. So I got 2 of those, another strawberry, and then like a sage that we will be putting in. Came out to the garden because I wanted to get some shishito peppers if they were ready to try the blistering that I hear so much good things about. But these are looking pretty small. I mean, I think I'll wait another couple days, just keep an eye on them. Finding cayennes ready like this. And I use these in my elderberry syrup. I like to dry these out and throw them in. So being content with where we are doesn't mean I've given up on the dream of having more land someday. I think sometimes we confuse contentment with settling, but they aren't the same thing to me. I can be grateful for this home, enjoy the garden I'm able to grow here, and keep working towards something more at the same time. Maybe you're waiting for more space, more money, or the right time to begin. But you don't have to put everything on hold until your circumstances are perfect. Start with what you have, learn the skills that you can, and find joy in the season you're in while still making room for the dream. On this day, I am making some no-bake protein balls with some simple pantry ingredients that most people probably have on hand. However, I was out of like a whey protein, like a powder. I have the liquid from the yogurt, but anyways, so I did substitute the almond flour for that ingredient, and I will link this and any other recipes in this video down below for you guys. But like I mentioned in probably majority of my videos is recipes are just things to go by for inspiration, and I just shop my pantry, and sometimes I will Google what can I use in place of this ingredient like I did on this day and come up with some other options. So for this day, like I said, I didn't have any kind of protein powder or whey protein powder specifically it asked for. So I just used almond flour, and then I added in some cashew pieces that I have laying around that I'm not really using. And I will say these were delicious, of course. And I did line the baking sheet with some of the almond flour because in the past these have been rather sticky. But on this day, I think adding the almond flour into the protein balls helped absorb that a lot more, and I don't necessarily think it was needed. But these lasted a couple days in my house, probably because the kids didn't know to look in the fridge for them, but they are something that we need to make at least once a week at this point for the summer. They're very easy, quick and go. They're kept in the fridge, like I said, so they are absolutely delicious on a hot, warm summer day for a good treat. And finally, something that I am still working on is learning that perfection is not the end game here, and I will show you what I mean about that after this. So while I definitely love using the fresh ground flour, it is something that I am very passionate about. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that. But it does come with the learning curve, and it does come with the understanding that things are not going to be what you are used to eating if you did not grow up having fresh ground flour, which many of us did not. So when I say that, it's just to know why you're doing the things that you're doing and not to have the bakery or the store-bought expectations. Fresh ground flour definitely does not behave the same as all-purpose flour, and that's okay. I know that I am doing it for the nutritional value, and this is a skill that I plan to continue to work on for the foreseeable future. If there is something like this that you feel very passionate about, let me know in the comments below what that is and what you are striving for. For me and my homesteading and homemaking outside of baking with fresh ground flour, it is being able to produce as much food for my family as possible in our small backyard garden, which I have shown you guys in previous videos, and I'll link that down below if you're curious to what the size of my garden actually looks like. But I do have 8 4x12 beds, 2 3x6s, 2 4x6s, and then 2 large in-ground beds that I think are about 3x36 or something like that. And there is a ton of food growing. And I am actually going to be making some changes down the road with my plans going into the fall for it that I will be sharing with you guys in the near future. But let me get back to the not expecting perfection because this I don't know exactly what I did wrong. I think I probably just picked the wrong wheat berries, and I don't know if you can notice, but it was very sticky even after I kept adding flour and I had let it rest for 15 minutes before really working with it in the mixer, and it just did not develop the gluten properly. But it did still come out absolutely delicious, as most of these products with fresh ground flour do. And I knew that it was made with love and definitely more nutrition than if I had used all-purpose flour. So I'm giving myself grace on that, knowing that one day I will have this down pat, but this is still a developing skill for myself and many of you watching, I'm sure. And on this day, I decided to make this French bread not only because I sounded good, but because I wanted to make a very simple meal with just pasta and ground beef, something that resembles Italian. And so I thought that this would be a nice addition. And I did end up making some garlic bread with it the following day, and it was just phenomenal. So while it may not look the best when it comes out of the oven, that I'll show you shortly, it was definitely not a wasted effort. So as I am finishing up dinner and wrapping up another day on our homestead, I'm reminded that homesteading doesn't have to wait for the perfect property. I still dream of having more land and a larger homestead someday, and I hope that dream becomes a reality. But I don't want to spend this season waiting for my real life to begin. I can grow what fits here, cook from scratch, care for my home, learn new skills, and find joy in what we have right now. The dream may still be ahead of us, but there is so much life and so much joy to be found along the way. I do hope that this video gave you some inspiration and helps you see the joy in your life a little bit more. I know sometimes in these harder economical climates, we can sometimes focus on the negative a little bit too much. So hopefully this helped give you a little bit of joy for the day. And I will see you in the next video, friends. Bye.